Hello and welcome to the November 2017 refresher training. This month's topics are going to be acceptable defects created by a notary, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's get to it. So the good part is, in section 142A of the New York State Notary Public License Law, it states validity of acts of notaries public and commissioners of deeds notwithstanding certain defects. 1. Except as provided in subdivision 3 of this section, the official certificates and other acts heretofore or hereafter made or performed of notaries publics and commissioners of deeds heretofore or hereafter and prior to their time of their acts appointed or commissioned as such shall not be deemed invalid, impaired, or in any manner defective, so far as they may be affected, impaired, or questioned by reasons of defects described in subdivision 2 of this section. Wow, I wonder why people have a hard time passing this exam and fail at like a 60% rate. Well, let's break this down and decode it. First of all, we have underlined the most important part. It's going to show things that notaries do wrong, called defects, and it's going to say they're acceptable defects. In other words, the document will not be deemed unrecordable, which is good news for the notary. So here we are in section 2. Let's read it. This section shall apply to the following defects. A. Ineligibility of the notary public or commissioner of deeds to be appointed or commissioned as such. So maybe somebody got appointed and gave the wrong information and they're ineligible to be a notary, but they're notarizing. B. Misnomers or misspelling of name or other error made in his or her appointment or commission. So once again, you could have given wrong information when you got appointed and you're notarizing under the wrong name, but apparently here it says it'll still be an acceptable defect. C. Omission of the notary public or commissioner of deeds to take or file his official oath or otherwise qualify. So that could be somebody that didn't renew or didn't even get licensed. D. Expiration of his term, commission, or appointment. Kind of covered that. E. Vacating of his office by change of his residence or by acceptance of another public office or by another action on this part. We know vacating means you moved away and you don't live in your jurisdiction anymore. You can accept another public office. That could be if somebody becomes a sheriff shall hold no other office, so you would lose your notary license. Or it says in the notary statutes that if a state legislator accepts the office of notary public, they can also notarize, but if they ever charge $2, they vacate their office as notary public. Just a little review there. And then F, the fact that this action was taken outside the jurisdiction where the notary public or commissioner of deeds was authorized to act. And our jurisdiction, as you should all know, is the physical boundaries of New York State. So this is saying if you notarize, not New York State, yes, New York State. This is saying if you notarize in another state or even a foreign country, that would be a defect that you can be in trouble for. You're not allowed to, but it would not necessarily make the document unrecordable. So the good continued is that no person shall be entitled to assert the effect of this section to overcome a defect described in section 2 we just read. If you knew of the defect or if the defect was apparent on the face of the certificate of the notary public or commissioner of deeds, provided, however, that this subdivision shall not apply after the expiration of 6 months from the date of the act of the notary public or commissioner of deeds. So basically, let's translate that into English, everyday common language. The notary public made those mistakes, and nobody can overcome that and argue that the document is unacceptable if they knew of the defect or if the defect was apparent. And apparent leaves a lot for interpretation, but if it's very clear that the notary did it wrong, or if that the person knew that it was defect at the time and accepted it, they can't overcome it. All right, and after 6 months, there's a statute of limitations that expires to try to overcome it, or say I don't want my document to be acceptable. After the expiration of the 6 months from the date of the official certificate or other act of the Commissioner of Deeds, subdivision 1 of the section shall be applicable to a defect consisting in omission of the Certificate of Commissioner of Deeds to state the date on which the place in which the act was done or consisting of an error in such statement. Well, this doesn't mention notary publics here in this section, because the law was dealing with notary publics and Commissioner of Deeds. This only pertains to notary publics. Okay, so the bad and the ugly is this section does not relieve any notary public or Commissioner of Deeds from criminal liability imposed by reason of his act or enlarge the actual authority of any such officer, nor limit any other statute or rule of law by reason of which the act of a notary public or Commissioner of Deeds or the record thereof is valid or is deemed valid in any case. So what does this say? It says that when you make those mistakes, it's what we call in the law an acceptable defect. An acceptable defect is not a good thing for the notary. It's a good thing for the parties to the paperwork that you notarized improperly. And basically boiling it down to the simplest explanation, their documents will remain recorded and they will be recognized. However, you're possibly in trouble for breaking the law. So the bad and ugly part is that you can get penalty notices, you can get fined, you can get lawsuits ensued in court, you can be charged with non-compliance, negligence, have your license suspended, or even revoked. That's very bad. And anytime they prove that anything that you omitted, an act that you did by omission or doing something that is not allowed, that could be intentional professional misconduct, which is a Class A misdemeanor, which is mandatory sentencing. Now, most misdemeanors, the first time it ever happens to you, it's usually a probation charge, but Class A misdemeanors can have jail sentencing, and you can go to jail for the Class A misdemeanors. So you don't want to do that. Even a probation is not going to be good on your resume. So that's it for this month's newsletter. To subscribe and receive this monthly video newsletter, you can do so at howtobecomeanotary.ny.com, and there's always monthly videos like this, refresher or new laws as they're published. There's notary license classes links in there, online or in person all over the state, and notary supplies links. We also have a hotline. You can call and ask questions about notary procedures at 347-427-9091 or ask about licensing. And we just want to give a special shout out to our subscribers. We've now gone over 7,000 subscribers, and we appreciate that. So we'll see you next month. That's been it for the Notary Public Licensing Refresher Training, November 2017.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.